I'm coming to you with a wrap-up of all the books I read in the month of July. Ever since I started Booktube, I've been reading a lot more than I used to, and this month was no exception. I read a total of 9 books this month, some for a readathon, some for this reading vlog that you guys will never see. And today I'm just going to be talking about all of the books I read this month, but before I do, remember to like this video, comment down below if you've read any of these books. I always respond to comments, I love getting them. Subscribe, I post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And click the notification bell so you're notified when I post new videos. But let's get into the video. And the first book I read this month was a 5-star read, which is so good. And that is Slay by Brittney Morris. This is our next chapter, book club, pick of the month for the month of July. You can still pick it up and read it because our live show is on August 2nd over on Troy Reed's channel. Everything you need to know is in the description. I highly recommend you come join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. This book was just so good, and I'm so happy it was our first pick. This book is about 16-year-old Kira Johnson, who's the only black kid at this really good private school, but what everyone around her, including her family, doesn't know is that online she is this game developer of a really popular online game. Obviously, it's a game, it's online, called Slay. Millions of black gamers play this game that revolves around black culture, and nobody knows that Kira is the game developer of this game. She even goes by a different persona just to keep herself private. But when a teen in Kansas City is murdered over a conflict in this game, Kira's life suddenly becomes so much more complicated, and while everyone around her is talking about how exclusionary and racist this game developer was, she has to try to figure out how to make her way in this world while still keeping her black identity. While there are trolls infiltrating this game, and everyone in the news is talking about her. And this book was just so good. Obviously, it tackled a lot of important issues in racism, but it also was so well written. I actually interviewed this author a while ago, maybe last year, and I just never picked up this book, and I'm so happy that I did now. But the game is so detailed, which I didn't expect. Most times authors just use the games as tools, but in this book, it was very developed. There were playing cards that actually meant something, and the game had an entire dynamic. I would play this game 100%, but obviously I wouldn't be able to because I'm not black, and that's actually one of the main themes in this book, because the game is being exclusionary by not letting white people come in. That also is a really important question in this book, and it's really explored well. There's just so many plot twists, and the characters are just so amazing. And I just loved Kira's perspective, and we also get a lot of other different perspectives in this book, just for like a chapter or so, and those just enrich the story a little bit more. And overall, this was such a good debut. And Brittney Morris just announced her second book, which I'm so excited for. But yeah, join us August 2nd, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Troy Reed's channel. Come with us. That sounded weird. Come join us. Alright, so the second book I read during the month of July is The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. This is the sequel. You don't really need to read the first book to Simon vs. the Homo sapiens agenda, which was just so good. Anyone who's read it will tell you that they loved it. I haven't met anyone who didn't like Simon vs. the Homo sapiens agenda. It's so well written, and I had pretty high expectations for this book, and it was one of my more disappointing reads of the month. It was all romance. Like, both characters did not have any character. I didn't know much about who they were as people. All I knew about was their relationships and this really weird love triangle that didn't need to be there. Nothing really happened in this book. Like, there was no plot. And while John Green can do that, Becky Albertalli can't do that. In Simon vs. Homo sapiens agenda, there was a plot. There were twists. And this book had some beautiful moments, but it wasn't a full plot. I already forget what happened in this book. That's how unmemorable the plot was. It was beautiful at times, pointless most times, but overall I rated it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I only gave this 3.5 stars for a romance book because it's Becky Albertalli. Her writing style is just so like effective. It's not purple prosy, it doesn't jump out at you, but it just gets the job done. The next book I read this month is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book is about Liz Lady, who's always believed she's too poor, too black to shine in this prom-obsessed town that she lives in, and she's been relying on this scholarship to go to this really good college where she will play in their world-famous orchestra. But when the scholarship money that she was counting on unexpectedly falls through, she has to find out a different way to make this money up. And so she signs up for prom, because prom is this big thing in this town. And so she signs up for prom to win the scholarship money she needs. Liz knows she's going to encounter trolls. People are going to humiliate her, but she knows she has to do what it takes to get this scholarship. And especially when she falls in love with her competitor, things become so much more complicated. This book was just so well written, such a good debut. All of the characters were just so beautiful, and I loved how they all just worked together and how I knew each and every one of them. They were all just so actualized, and I could all see them function as separate characters, and that's really hard to do in a book. And I'm so astounded that this author did it in a debut novel. And it was just so realistic as to what school is really like friends were lost, relationships were lost over one scene or one little fight. And the characters just grew so much in this book. It was not made easy for them at all. They all just came together in the end. And it was such a beautiful ending. Just read this book for the ending alone. And there's also this old friendship between two of the characters that was rekindled. And just seeing that blossom was just so much fun. And then seeing the bullies get what they deserved was also so much fun. So yeah, I highly recommend you should see Me in a Crown. I gave it 5 stars. It was so good. If you need good representation, good writing, good characters, this is the book for you. The next book I read this month is Rumblefish by S.E. Hinton. S.E. Hinton is obviously more popular for her book The Outsiders, which I also do not own. But this book is really short. It's only 140 pages maybe. I read it in one day because it was so short. But it just has such an impact on you. I don't know really how to describe this book, and I don't want to describe too much because it is pretty short. But it's basically about Rusty James, who wants to keep up this reputation of being the tough boy in her school, just like his older brother, Motorcycle Boy. Though Rusty James isn't book smart, he uses his fists instead of his brains, and he hasn't needed his brains so far, but there's only so many things that Motorcycle Boy can help him out for, and when Motorcycle Boy unexpectedly disappears, Rusty James's life unexpectedly comes apart in so many pieces. This book is just so poetic. I'd urge you to not look just on what it is on the outside. So much poetry and meaning to be taken when you really look deeper into the story. It's about living our own lives and finding our own meanings in the world. It's about idolization and really about celebrity, and it's just about so many important things. And S.E. Hinton really did it again this book, and it's just so underrated, and I highly recommend you read it. I'm looking at Goodreads right now, and the only person I follow who has rated it is Marcus Zuzak. Come on now, you guys are sleeping on this book. I assure you it is so good. I highly recommend to pick it up. In the end of this book, I don't want to say too much about it. You learn how to be a rumblefish. That came out way cheesier than I was expecting. Okay, the next book. One of my new all-time favorites. The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. Where do I start with this book? I haven't talked about it on my channel yet. I need to make a video on it. It deserves it. I just love this book so much. I was not expecting to like it, but it's basically about this guy called Todd who's in this town called Prentisstown, where basically you can hear everything that everyone else is thinking, and this thing is called noise. Todd is just a month away from being a man, which in this town is being 13 years old, I think. Todd and his dog Manchi unexpectedly stumble upon this area of silence, which is you're not supposed to find that in Prentisstown. All the silence is gone. It was gone a long time ago. And this is a secret so awful that now Todd and Manchi have to run for their lives, and they meet crazy characters. They have the adventure of their lives. Friendships are made, friendships are lost. They go on literally an epic quest. They stumble upon these new worlds and learn a lot about each other and have to make a lot of hard decisions, and nothing is ever easy for them, not even until the ending. The ending is even tough. This book has so many plot twists, and I just love how good of a storyteller Patrick Ness is as well. The Knife of Never Letting Go is such a symbol in this book. It's so important and integral to Todd and the character he becomes in the story, and how much he grows and learns about himself and about other people and how to treat them. I almost cried during this book. It was just... It's also a really good allegory on social media, and it even says that in the back of the book. It's fascinating and deeply complex characters, an amazing world, a thrilling adventure, and I literally loved everything about this book, and I cannot wait to read the second book. This was also supposed to be a movie with Tom Holland in it, and then it just never worked out, which I'm just so sad, and I would love to see this translated on the screen. But I mean, we can't get everything in life. Alright, so the next book I read this month was my first read for the reading rush, and that is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I read this book for the prompt of reading a book based on a movie you've already seen. I don't know why I just did it like that. But if you have not watched the movie, miles better than the book. I spoiled it. I hated this book. It was so underwhelming. Completely different from the book in the worst way possible. It was still Neil Gaiman. It was still his writing style. And for that, it was still 3 stars. but it was just so underwhelming. So much of what I loved in the movie was just not here in the book. So much was changed. It was such a slow story, and it just did not give me that same magical vibe as I expected it to be. I expected it to be at least as good or better than the movie, but it was nothing. It was horrible. I hated this book, and I was not expecting that. Like, the movie was about love and life and finding out our identity, and this book was about nothing. The book didn't even know what it wanted to be about. And the movie just made it so much better, and I would love to read a book that is based on the movie, in which the plot actually functions like the movie did. But alas, that's not what I got with this book, and I just hate that I hated this book so much. One thing in the movie I love is the man on the ship and his complex character and how much he hides of himself. That was something I loved a lot. And in this book, we don't cover that at all. I was waiting. I was so excited for that part. And then it's like 10 pages long. It's this really quick time lapse, and then we're done with it. When I finished that scene, I was so disappointed. We were already so long into the book, and I was like, where is the good parts going to come? Where is Neil Gaiman going to show his magic? And it just never came. And I'm so disappointed that I did not like this book. So now let's talk about a book that I love. Get a Life, Chloe Brown. This is the first adult romance that I've ever read in my life, and it did not disappoint. You've probably heard everyone talk about this book, and I mean everyone, and for good reason. This book is about Chloe Brown, obviously, who after she gets in this car accident, does she? Or maybe she like sees a car accident. Yeah, after almost but not quite dying, she comes up with this list of 7 things she wants to do to get a life. And she's already completed the first, to move out of her family's glorious mansion. One of the things on Chloe's list is to be bad. But everyone knows it's not that easy being bad. And so Chloe needs help, and so she enlists the help of Red Morgan, who is a struggling artist, who is her superintendent. He has tattoos, he has this amazing motorcycle, and like I said, he's an artist who paints at night and hasn't showed his work to anyone in a long time, and that's because of this dark history that he had in London. But when Chloe enlists Red in her mission to rebel, to get this life, she learns things about him and her that help them both rediscover themselves, discover their identities, and come to accept themselves and each other, and just fall in love slowly but surely. This is just a beautifully written story. One of my favorite things in this book, my favorite thing in this book was Chloe and Red's interactions. And since we had that almost every page, they're just so funny and snarky, while also just talking about a lot of important things. This book was just the excellent blend of humor and meaning and seriousness. And I just love this book so much. Like, they're both people, and we can see that they both have flaws. They're trying to work on those flaws, but other flaws they're not trying to work on. And that's exactly what real people are like. They both have their own stories and these situations that have defined them for years to come. They're both trying to work themselves out as people. I cannot believe I like this romance book so much. And if you want to hear my real thoughts about it, you can just go to my YouTube channel. The video is literally titled Reading Guide to Life, Chloe Brown. Just watch my thoughts as they come. I talk so much about this book and how good it is. I highly recommend reading it, even if you're not into adult romance. I think everyone needs to read this book. Alright, so the next book I read this month is This Song Will Save Your Life by Lila Sales. This book is about Elise Dombasky, who spent her entire summer trying to find out how to be popular. She studies all the popular music. She does what she thinks is the only thing humanly possible to become popular, and it just completely backfires, and she considers giving up on life. But when she stumbles upon this warehouse party, she meets these 2 characters that just accept her wholeheartedly. Vicky, this girl in a band, and Pipa, who's described as this carefree spirit from England, and honestly, that's all you need to know. And then this other character, who I didn't mention because Char, who is this mysterious disc jockey that is so on and off in this book. And this book is about identity and friendship, and how the power of music and the power of art can connect us all and help us rejuvenate our lives and find meaning in it. I have so many mixed feelings on this book. I gave it 4 stars, but that's a generous 4 stars. This book has so much potential for me to love it, and I know so many other people love it so much because they can relate to it, but I just don't have that relatable level. But even I could see that this book was so well written. I almost cried, so there's that. The characters were so beautiful, and I felt so deeply for our main character and all she goes through in this book to eventually get to the ending. She goes through all of the things you can go through in this book. But there's a mystery aspect in this book, and I'm a Ravenclaw. I know, J.K. Rowling, we don't talk about her, but I think a house can really tell a lot about who you are. So I'm a Ravenclaw, and when this mystery aspect was created, was revealed, I obviously jumped to really think about who I thought it was. And then it was this character that is so irrelevant in this book. Like, they're literally mentioned 2 times in this book. They're not even, like, I don't even think they talk in this book. Maybe once or twice. Like, they're so irrelevant, and their motivation for doing it is just so stupid. And I just hated the mystery aspect in this book. And we also never really got a conclusion with some of the main plot lines, especially one of the characters. But overall, this book was just well written. It was still really good. I thought it could have been a little longer, but I still really loved this book. Okay, so the last book I read this month, where is it? As Organized Person right here, The Conference of the Birds by Ransom Riggs. This book was the sequel to A Map of Days, which was one of my favorite books of all time. And while I obviously can't go into spoilers with this book was, I had mixed feelings on this one as well. While I loved being back in this peculiar world, and I just had so much fun reading the story, and it was a great adventure, and I just loved seeing where some aspects of the plot went. I didn't like where other aspects of the plot went. And it's hard not to talk about spoilers as to why I didn't like this book. Old things that were left in the past that shouldn't have been brought up again were brought up. And that was the case in the 4th book, but I didn't mind that at all. I actually loved that. But in this book, it was just, I hated it so much. So many things that A Map of Days led up to are just not carried out the way I had wanted them to be in this book. And although it was still an amazing adventure, and I cannot wait to see where the 6th book goes, I just don't love this book as much as I had wanted to originally. There's nothing fundamentally wrong about this story, I just didn't like it, and I feel like it could have been a lot better. The writing is as good as ever, the book was so thrilling, and I still highly recommend reading the series just to get to the 4th book, even if the 5th book is a little bit of a letdown. Okay guys, so that was all the books I read in the month of July. Subscribe, I post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And click that notification bell so you're notified when I post new videos. Like and comment down below, and I'll see you next time with another video.